My name is Andrew Liu, and I'm a senior at Clemens High School, another one of the high schools in our district in Fort Bend. I'm here as a representative of the Fort Bend ISD Equity Coalition. I'm the Community Engagement Director at this coalition, and we're going to get into what exactly we do. So what is the FBC Equity Coalition? We're a group of student and alumni from across the district of Fort Bend who are passionate about advocating for racial and social justice in regards to addressing the deep harms caused by systemic racism when it comes to education. How do we do this? Well, not only do we meet with these local stakeholders, but we also implement our own projects in order to address these concerns. Now let's get on to specifically how we started and the timeline of how we got to who we are today. It all started in the summer of 2020, when our founders Samia Rizvi and Chanel Adeg got together and began discussing and sharing the protests that were happening around them. Both students from Boston High School began reaching out to their friends and others who agreed on the same viewpoints as them, and then turned our attention locally to what was happening actually in Fort Bend. Eventually, they grew to a coalition, and we first posted in July 8th of 2020, announcing the founding of our coalition. After that, we began collecting experiences in order to document the ways that racism could actually affect our education here in Fort Bend and uncover the pervasive ways that inequality affects us every day. For example, at my school, Clemens, one student reported that a teacher once encouraged them to say the N-word just because it was in the reading, regardless of the fact that it was a racial slur. Or here at Travis, another example. When, after Trump was elected in 2016, students came to school wearing MAGA shirts, and one student even commented that her job was tugged and told, "This is our country now." I'm sure you have an example similar to this, an instance of a microaggression or overt discrimination that you didn't believe was enough to report or qualify an instance of racism. However, once we started collecting experiences, they started flooding in, documenting just how pervasive these kind of problems could be, even in a district as diverse as Fort Bend. These experiences eventually formed the basis of the Fort Bend ISD Equity Coalition demands. These demands, in short, were 5 demands that we thought were crucial in order to build an anti-racist Fort Bend. In summary, first, we have actively stand against racism in the district. Secondly, in order to implement an anti-racist curriculum in the district. Third, to implement a dress code that's inclusive of all gender, race, religion, gender, and gender expressions. Fourth, to provide greater support for BIPOC and LGBTQIA students in the district. And lastly, to reevaluate our relationship with Fort Bend ISD police and all of our high schools and middle schools in the district. These demands were fundamental in guiding our mission for the next couple of years. Once we started publishing these demands, we found resonated with a lot of students. We began spreading these demands leveraging our existing social networks, and eventually reached over 500 students that signed on to meet these demands. In regards to these demands, we've been implementing many projects and many meetings in order to get these demands passed and implemented. The specific policy that we recommend comes from neighboring school districts and other school districts that have been far more progressive, as well as taking inspiration from other student advocacy organizations in order to meet what we believe to be an equitable education system. In order to pass these demands, we've met with many people, including former Superintendent Charles Dupree, as well as nearly every single Board of Trustees member existing now, including standing board members Judy Day, Shirley Rose Gilliam, and Kristen Davidson Malone. In addition, we met with other local officials, such as Kate George, who is the local county judge. We discussed everything, including dress code, curriculum, and COVID policy for the past couple of years, and tried to make sure that we represented the student voice and the voices of the alumni who wanted to pass more equitable systems into this district. We've also partnered with other local organizations, including, for example, conducting open records requests with MIT researcher Chelsea Barabas to analyze the way that discretionary punishment can influence dress code referrals and exposing just how bad this problem could be in a district like Fort Bend, as well as partnering with other organizations such as Chelsea Moon in order to advocate for in order to advocate for more youth engagement in voting, especially when it comes to really undercovered elections. For example, something I'm really proud of us working on is turning our attention towards these local, state, and national elections, but specifically these local board of trustees elections that are really undercovered by other media sources. We interview the candidates and publish our findings in voting guides that spread across and hopefully help individuals make more informed choices on the future of our school district and the education that actually affects us every single day. Through this, we've learned a couple lessons on what it means to be a student organization and to have this kind of advocacy. First, on flexibility. A lot of other organizations started out at the same time as we did, impassioned by the protests going on in 2020, however, did not have the same longevity. We believe one of the key reasons we've made it this far and are still working towards goals is because of the flexibility we've been able to implement. First, for example, after the passing of House Bill 3979 and Senate Bill 3, we saw that a lot of different things that we were trying to do were simply not going to be feasible. These quote-unquote anti-critical race theory bills passed by the Texas legislature prevented a lot of our demands from being passed. In meetings with stakeholders and students, we had to reevaluate what specifically we were demanding with curriculum changes in order to make sure we were doing this feasible. This was really crucial in ensuring the longevity and ability for us to conduct these demands while still remaining attached to our core values. Secondly is on consistency. Consistency is key when you're running a grassroots organization. When we meet every single week, we discuss the projects that we're undergoing and set a clear expectation for what's going to happen in the future. We have a clear post timeline in order to make sure that everyone knows what exactly we're going to work on for the next step. These provide the foundational basis in order for us to overcome obstacles that arise. For example, if we must cancel a meeting, we know exactly when we're going to meet next, and these building blocks set us on the path to greater success. Lastly is on connection. Connection is really important in a group like this. We are not a club, but a coalition. That means we are a coalition of like-minded students who are all working towards the same goals and have the same core values when it comes to fighting social justice and racial injustice. That's why we have weekly check-ins in order to gauge where our members are when it comes to things like their work in school and realize that everyone is students first. By doing this, we make sure that no one takes on more responsibility than they can and ensure that everyone can maintain balance and have a more sustainable development of the coalition as a whole. That looks like taking breaks when it comes to midterms and final seasons, as well as around some other holidays like Halloween, where many other organizations might not deem as important to take breaks on. These three key lessons, I hope, can help us realize the way that student advocacy can be a powerful force moving on into the future. So, how can we get involved? The biggest way to get involved is, again, if you're interested in what we're doing, to follow our Instagram, where we post updates on all of our products and raise awareness on these local issues. However, I want to turn more towards what you can do outside of what we're doing. We see that student advocacy can be a powerful tool and is able to create monumental change even in a district that might be not as receptive to these goals. What we want you to do is to go beyond our posts. We raise awareness on these specific issues, however, you can do so much more. You can call your local board of trustees, you can call your local representatives, and you can take action and make change. If you yourself believe that there's something that's going on around you where you want to demand change, please do not be afraid to take action and make that change happen. I promise you, you are not alone. Thank you.